In 1945, as World War II is coming to an end, kamikaze pilot Koichi Shikishima lands on Ohu Island with the intention of repairing his plane. He talks to a senior mechanic named Suzaku Tashibana, who thinks Koichi has escaped. Koichi decides to stay the night at their camp. During the night, terrifying sounds are heard, and camp soldiers turn on lights to see what's happening. Suddenly, they see a huge and terrifying Godzilla entering their camp for an attack. Godzilla devours some of them and causes destruction. Koichi tries to escape to get to his plane but fails, frozen in fear. He later wakes up to find the camp destroyed by Godzilla, with everyone gone except Suzaku Tashibana, who survived with Koichi. Koichi blames himself for what happened and, along with the remaining Japanese forces, returns to their village in a chaotic post-war situation. Koichi encounters a local woman named Sakura Ando, who chastises him for his involvement in the war that led to their devastation. Even in a letter from Koichi's parents, he is reproached. Later, Koichi meets a woman named Oishi Noriko, who hands him something and flees from the authorities. Koichi discovers a baby in his arms, left by Noriko in distress. He decides to leave the baby there but struggles to do so. Noriko encounters him again and explains that the baby is not hers and the baby's parents perished in the bombing, and out of compassion, she saved him from the bombing. Noriko comes to Koichi's house, and despite Koichi's initial resistance, they agree to take care of the baby named Akiko, forming a temporary family. 2 years have passed, and Koichi receives a letter from the army, informing him that he intends to work as a minesweeper. Despite Noriko's objections, Koichi assures her that he must work to support their livelihood and take care of Noriko and Akiko. He then meets Captain Yuji Akitsu, Kenji Noda, and Shiro Kid Mizushima. They soon realize that Godzilla has returned and is heading towards Japan. Koichi is enlisted from the Japanese Army's gunmen because U.S. Army decided not to helping Japan due to its tensions with the Soviet forces. At sea, Koichi and his friends suddenly see the Godzilla, who destroys a larger ship. Then Godzilla turns his attention towards Koichi's ship. They try to deter him using depth charges, and despite Koichi's trembling hands, he fires at Godzilla. However, one of the explosives detonates, damaging part of Godzilla's face. Godzilla regenerates his wound and prepares to charge himself to unleash a nuclear breath towards Koichi's ship. A large naval ship with its fighter jets heavily targets Godzilla, causing him to fall into the ocean. Suddenly, Godzilla resurfaces and attacks the ship, resulting in a nuclear explosion that kills everyone on board. Koichi and his friends survive from the tragedy, but Koichi is determined to warn the city of Godzilla's impending approach. However, his friend Kenji Noda stops him, revealing that the government does not intend to make this matter public due to the chaos it may cause. Koichi returns home and explains to Noriko what happened to them in the sea and how close they were to being taken out by Godzilla multiple times. He then expresses regret and feels guilty for not being able to defend his comrades in the army and witnessing their deaths. Noriko embraces him to comfort him. After feeding the child, Noriko gets ready to go to work, with Koichi supposed to look after the child. Suddenly, military personnel notice Godzilla underwater and see him moving towards the city. At the same time, Koichi hears on the radio that a Godzilla attack is imminent. Finally, Godzilla enters the city and starts destroying everything. Suddenly, Godzilla attacks the same train Noriko was on, crushing it in half with his mouth, and as Noriko fights for survival, she falls into the water and survived. Godzilla continues to rampage through the city, destroying everything in his path. Then, amid the chaos as people flee, Noriko stumbles, but Koichi arrives and saves her. Meanwhile, army tanks start firing at Godzilla, only making him angrier as he prepares himself for a powerful atomic breath. But at that moment, before the atomic blast is released from his mouth, Noriko sacrifices herself, throwing Koichi into an alley, seeming to sacrifice herself. And as the explosion goes off, Koichi believes he has lost Noriko and then runs towards Godzilla, who is now retreating and heading back towards the ocean, shouting. Koichi, feeling miserable, brings their neighbor Sumiko to take care of Akiko, who is feeling extremely abandoned and thirsty for revenge. Though Kenji pours his heart out to Kenji and finds hope within. In an extraordinary meeting attended by military forces to strategize against the serious Godzilla issue, Kenji Noda unveils his own plan to trap the beast underwater using Feron tanks, hoping the pressure will crush it. If the underwater trap fails, Their next hope is for Godzilla to resurface and be killed by explosive decompression using balloons. Despite their efforts, the Japanese army commander refuses to cooperate. However, Kenji Noda, alongside their friends including Koichi, decide to confront Godzilla on their own and enact Kenji's plan. Kenji then reveals from an aircraft and was supposed to have Koichi as a pilot to execute a part of the plan, where if the original plan fails, Koichi would drop a bomb on Godzilla. Koichi then meets with Suzaku Tachibana to help him equip his aircraft with a bomb to confront Godzilla. The plan involves guiding the aircraft into Godzilla's mouth and detonating the bomb inside. Next, Kenji discusses their final plan with their combatants to keep Godzilla underwater and then execute their own plan. Subsequently, Koichi talks to their stepdaughter, Akiko, who is anxiously crying. Akiko draws a picture for Koichi, who hugs her to calm her down. Before heading out for the operation, Koichi leaves some money for Sumiko to take care of Akiko. Kenji and the rest of his group are gearing up to operationalize their plan when they spot Godzilla in the water heading towards the shore. Koichi also gets ready to take flight towards Godzilla. In a brave move, he flew above Godzilla, taking aim at Godzilla, but it doesn't do much good. Meanwhile, Sumiko receives a letter from the post. Godzilla then goes back into the ocean and upon seeing the ships and naval vessels, charges himself up for an atomic breath towards them. Fortunately, no damage is done. The army commander now joins Kenji's team, and they start luring Godzilla underwater, where they have him restrained with ropes at a depth of 1,500 feet. Suddenly, they release Feron gas-containing missiles to try and subdue him, thinking they had succeeded in drowning Godzilla underwater. To their surprise, Godzilla resurfaces again. At that moment, one of their comrades, Shiro Mizushima, along with many other ships, comes to aid them, exerting pressure and not allowing Godzilla to emerge from the water. However, their efforts prove futile as Godzilla, with all his might, rises and gets extremely angry, preparing for a highly dangerous atomic breath. They all feel like they're about to die. In that moment, Koichi Shikishima moves towards Godzilla with all his strength, aiming vengeance for Noriko. He heads straight into Godzilla's mouth, and the plane explodes inside Godzilla's mouth before impact, reminding him of Suzaku Tachibana's advice to hit the emergency exit key before hitting Godzilla. Everyone thinks he sacrificed himself until his rescue parachute is seen. With his head now blown up, Godzilla's entire body begins to collapse and drowns in the water. Before Koichi lands, everyone shows military respect for him and gratitude. He then embraces his friend and is warmly welcomed by everyone. Sumiko hands him the letter she received. As soon as he reads it, he realizes that Noriko is alive and hospitalized due to radioactive exposure. Overwhelmed with emotions, they run towards each other and embrace, crying. Before the end of the movie, a scene of Godzilla's body parts in the water is shown reconstructing, indicating that mutated Godzilla is not meant to die soon.